Introducing the epic new Swift. Time to go swifting.
Well, bring on the Eliminator. 3 games to go in the tournament, and after tonight, only 3 teams will stay alive. RCB, it's been the season that dreams are made of. Will the dream carry on as they look for a 7th win on the trot against the Rajasthan Royals side that are winless in 5 themselves? Such contrasting fortunes, such strikingly different storylines, and it all comes together in Ahmedabad for the second playoff game. So we build up to it as the toss has taken place in Ahmedabad. On Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout, powered by JBL. Now, Tom Moody, Mitchell McClenaghan and Varun. Something different on the panel today, isn't there? Something missing, perhaps, today?
The moustache. Oh. She's gone, mate. Disappeared last night.
No, what also, I was disappointed last night. Not because of that moustache, but because we wanted a cracking playoff game. We didn't get it. We got a one-sided affair. The last time RCB played, we got a cracker. What is the initial feeling on the eve of the Eliminator, just before it? Are we going to get a cracker today?
I mean, if there has to be a cracker, it has to be this game, because RCB are going to put everything on the line tonight. So is RR, because tonight is an Eliminator. Last night, you know what?
You know the cushion is
there.
Yes,
there is a cushion. So I'm not saying that takes away the edge from the competition at all. Both teams want to win. But tonight, they're going to fight really hard, both teams.
Our good friend George Binoy, one of our writers previewing this game, said it quite nicely. RCB have already played 6 Eliminators. Here they are now against RR, who've perhaps not had a single game where their tournament's been on the line.
Oh, they've tried to get themselves eliminated.
Relevant, though, with the contrasting pressure points that they've experienced, these 2 teams?
Yeah, well, they've walked the path, haven't they, for the last couple of weeks? As simple as that. Whose shoes would I rather be in? I'd rather be in RCB's shoes, purely because I'm coming to the ground, I'm walking onto the field, I'm taking the crease or got the new ball in my hand, feeling full of confidence, and more importantly, feeling full of confidence with who's around me. Because over the past 2 weeks or so, RCB have played a brand that's been a collective effort, and it's been a brand that's fitted the mould of what this IPL's about. You know, it's sort of action-packed, taking the game on, and have been, you know, the sense of urgency in everything they've done, whether it's running between the wickets, the fielding, the bowling, the batting has been on point. It's been real finals type stuff. Where was it in the first half? That's the question they'll do. You know, they'll review at the end of the season. Where, on the other hand, you got Rajasthan Royals have lost their compass, and they are going into this contest coming to the ground with a sense of hesitation, hoping they can refine where North is and start tracking that way.
Now, these 2 teams played just the once this season. We have to go back to Jaipur for that game. And I remember this was the conversation back then, that RCB actually enjoy quite a favourable record against the Rajasthan Royals. Since 2021, it's actually 5-3. It was 5-2 going into this season until that game at Jaipur. They also blew away the Royals last year, which was part of the stumble that saw Sanju Samson's side miss out on the playoffs in 2023. In playoffs, 1-1. In Ahmedabad, 1-1. And 1-0, of course, as we mentioned this season. It's neck and neck as matchups go. But do Rajasthan care at the moment? I mean, they have to find their mojo somehow.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you what, I think what they've been struggling with the last few games has been their batting. Their batting's looked weak, and one change they've made tonight is that they're going to strengthen their batting. So I think they've made the right play in their selection, their team selection, and I think that's the only way that they're going to get out of this hole. They're going to go in with less bowling options, but good bowling options, and rely on those guys to do the job and just make sure they bat a little bit deeper.
I find that really interesting, because so often you have discussions in dressing rooms where the bowling group, being the 2 on my right, I don't put you in that category, you're with me as a batter.
Thank you, Tom.
But the bowling group was saying, oh, okay, well, we're being compromised. We're losing a bowler because our batting is not functioning. So we're going to have to add another batter. And suddenly our squadron of bowlers have been depleted just to cover up a weakness there. So it's always that debate, isn't it? You know, do you rob Peter to pay Paul?
And by robbing Peter, they've actually taken away Andre Berger, who we were talking in the car on the way here. I think he was a really good matchup to Kohli, with the bounce he gets, the pace he gets, taking the ball away. You know, obviously swings the ball in nicely, but it gets that bounce that goes over the stumps. So you've taken away one of your key matchups.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that Hetmeyer and Rovman Powell are playing.
Now,
In the first 11, they haven't named Hetmeyer.
Look, they're going to bowl, and Samson's saying Hetmeyer's back, which means Hetmeyer will be...
So he's in.
Yeah,
He's in.
will be the impact sub in. So there will be no non-Reberger.
So the other interesting thing is that Hetmeyer and Powell have had poor IPLs. So are they strengthening the batting?
Well, Hetmeyer's only faced 45 balls. He's
Yeah,
played.
yeah, but that goes to the discussion on how they have used their power hitters. They've done it very, very analytically, as in this is their best entry point, which is at the 15th point, 2 over.
Yeah.
You know, against it being get in there, turn the game around and win the game for us and face 40 balls or face 50 balls, whatever the circumstances are. They've been denied time at the crease, so therefore they've naturally just lost rhythm and touch with the game.
It's a big call they would have had to make. If Josh Butler was there, maybe it would have been tempted to play Reberger with Kohli and Faf at the top of the order. And we go back to the game, it was Josh Butler who got them over the line when these two teams previously met. Rovman Powell, funny enough, we're discussing how he's not quite lived up to the role that he's supposed to, and we go back to that game against Sunrisers where Powell missed out the last ball, and that triggered the winless streak for RR. And today they've had to have made that big call. Is it a big call that they've left out on Reberger in a game like this?
I mean, it is a big call, but it also isn't, because they needed to strengthen their middle order. And this is the only way they could have strengthened their middle order. We spoke about it yesterday as well.
Yeah.
I always thought they're going to play the two overseas middle order batsmen because there was no other way they could really strengthen it. And also, let's talk about the last time they played a playoff here. Josh Butler got 100. He's not there today. Prasidh Krishna got 3 wickets. He's not there today. So they're really depleted going into this game. And all they're doing is hoping that Hetmeyer or Powell or both of them fire. Because going by this season, there are no real stats to back both of their performances at all this year. So at the moment, are hoping that their batsmen fire, especially in the middle order.
Yeah, one of the funny things. The point you made is that they've depleted the bowling. We saw when Chahal and Ashwin were under pressure against KKR, a big total was posted, and I would say this middle order of RCB, the way they've been playing spin recently. I think Ashwin and Chahal are going to be under a lot of pressure tonight, and they don't really have another option to come in and back those guys up if they go around the park. You've only got Parag who can bowl an over. We haven't seen Rovman Powell bowl at all this whole tournament, so they're limited in their options in terms of if one of their spinners goes the distance, Patidar takes them down, Maxwell takes them down, Kohli takes them down, then where do they go to next? So they are limited. It's a risk that they've decided that they are willing to take, and it'll be interesting to see if it comes off.
Yeah.
I think this was the most. This was a no-brainer. They had to do this. There was no other way, because if you see their middle order stats, it was just not up to the mark. So I mean, Tom, would you agree?
I'll give you an alternative.
Yeah.
What they could have done is put Dhruv Durrell at the top of the order, not played Tom Kohler-Cadmore, and then kept Andre Berger, and then played another domestic batter.
I mean, we've also spoken of Samson with his opening experience, if you wanted to send him up.
They could have put Dubé in there at 6 or 7, put Dhruv Durrell at the top, Cadmore out. You still keep your two middle order power hitters, and you keep your pace bowler.
But Jurel has never opened, so taking that risk in a playoff game would be huge.
What, Kohler-Cadmore's not a risk?
I mean,
He's played one IPL game.
He's at least an opener.
Yeah, but Dhruv Durrell's just come off a Test series. He's a quality player. I'd personally trust an Indian international player in that role than suddenly a new international coming and finding his way.
And that's where they made the mistake earlier in the tournament, when they played that one game where Koshian went up.
I was just going to say, he's more of an opener than Kotian.
Yeah, like Koshian went up to the top.
100%,
I'm just looking at alternatives, and that's. I'm sure that conversation would have gone around the RR board table.
Essentially, good point that the panel makes is because the middle order hadn't fired, they've decided this is their best bet to win a playoff game. If we look at RR, when they were playing well, the middle order, or rather the batting itself, you had in the death overs, so while finishing the innings, they were doing the job. A lot of that was the top order batting deep. The games that they started losing were a number of times that the lower middle order was called into question, where Ashwin was promoted. They've decided to play both the big West Indian power hitters in this game today. Yeah, well, the question that the panel raised earlier, though, especially with the RCB now batting first. RR have chosen to field, worked wonders for KKR yesterday, though Pat Cummins decided to bat. We just have a quick look at RCB. No reason to change what's working. They found some consistency. Lockie Ferguson stays. Maxwell, what an able replacement he was to Will Jacks, came in lower down the order. We wait to see if that is indeed the batting lineup, depending on how Faf and Kohli go. But absolutely no surprises. We now have a settled RCB team. We can almost predict that Swapnil Singh will come in at some point too. How time flies.
Time does fly, and they have really turned it around in this time, because what they've done has been spectacular. And the biggest thing is that they have done something which nobody thought they would do. So going into this game, they're going to have a lot of confidence.
Yeah, interesting. You talked about why did they turn their season around, and they fell into the trap of, if you make a trade for a player or you've bought someone for big money, you feel like you have to play them at the start of the season. And they played Alzari Joseph at the start of the season. They tried to play Maxwell when he was out of form, gave him a long stretch when he was out of form. And then also they traded Duggar. So they started the season with Duggar as well. So there was a lot of parts which they tried to bring into their team over the off-season, push them into the team because they were high-priced players, or they were traded players, and the synergy just wasn't there. And it took them some time to realise that you don't need to play the highest-paid players. You've got to make sure that there's some chemistry in your team. And I think that's where we saw the start of the turnaround, with some guys coming into form as well.
Okay, well, we can't help but think that one player who's been with them their entire history is seeing a different year than others. And what we saw in the last game, effective knockout game for RCB, Virat Kohli on what turned out to be a challenging surface, at least at the time that he was batted like the legend that he's built up to be in this format. Kohli in 2024, we just break it down now. The evolution of Kohli is the conversation. He will come up against arguably two of the best spinners that the league has seen in the form of Chahal and Ashwin. In 2024, he is striking at 162 gents in the power play at a very healthy average of 85.8. You compare that to previous years, and you also compare how he is now taking down the opposition's go-to matchup against him of either left-arm spin or his spin. And let's put down what the most noticeable change has been, especially in context of the last game. Tom?
I think the first thing is that he has made a conscious effort of taking the main bowler on the opposition on straight away. We've seen him charge down the wicket, first or second ball, against the likes of Rabada and others, just to stamp his authority on the power play, but his authority on that matchup. So he hasn't been sort of sitting and waiting to play, his aggressive shot when he's given a little bit of width or something's over pitched. He has shown the initiative, so the intent is there. So therefore, he's played the first hand. Where I think maybe before players like Virat Kohli and others have sort of are good enough to be able to absorb a little bit of pressure, see how the land's lying, and then counter-attack from that position. He's going straight out of the blocks. And the other part to it is, as soon as the matchup of spin comes on, he's saying, no, I'm having none of that. I'm sorry, you're going down. And these are my options. I'm either going to take you over extra cover, I'm going to hit the side screen, I'm going to play that straight sweep slog. And I'm not going to hesitate in doing it. Where before, there was hesitation. He'd rather just nurdle a one and get off strike.
Will he, with what Tom's saying, do the same today against Trent Bolt, where we know the history in the matchup there?
Well, the matchup's pretty favourable, actually, for Virat Kohli. Strikes at almost 140. Boldy's only got him out once in the IPL, so 80-odd runs. So I think it's going to be fascinating little heads-to-head today. I think for RA's sake, I think they're going to need Bolty to do what Mitchell Starc did last night. He's going to be the key to them, along with Sandeep Sharma, who's got a really good matchup against them. But yes, traditionally he has struggled against left-arm seamers and left-arm slow
But
spin.
this season,
I think he's been exceptional.
Yep.
And there was a definite shift. There was a definite shift. We thought it was the same Kohli, going the same strike rate against the slow left-armers, not taking on the pace, the seamers, left-arm seamers, and He's just gone up a gear. And there was a specific point in the season where someone put a bee in his bonnet, and Virat Kohli's not the guy you want to stir up.
Yeah.
If he thinks he's got something to prove to someone, he'll go out there and prove it. So it's been the significant shift that we've seen.
And I know what you're saying, because against Rajasthan in that game, he got that 67 ball 100 joint slowest, and there were a few innings in and out of the power play which triggered exactly that conversation. And if anything, it seems like he's responded well to it. Now the challenge is, now that he's playing in beast mode, how do bowlers plan to bowl to him?
Look, we must also understand why he was playing that way at the start. It's also because Patidar wasn't firing at all.
Sure.
Maxi wasn't firing. So he was taking a lot of load off the team. So he had to play at that strike rate. But when you talk about plans, obviously, you just have to, more than plans, you have to execute your plans, because he's going to come really hard at you. He's going to want to stamp his authority right at the start of the competition. And if you can stick to your plans, there are better chances that you're going to come out a winner against Virat Kohli. But all he wants to do is go out there, spoil your plans, and make you bowl where he wants you to bowl.
It's interesting that you say that point, because at the start of the season, we all got asked the question, will Virat Kohli strike over 140 this year? And when I remember looking at those numbers, I went through all his seasons in IPL. I think 3 times he'd struck over 140. So it wasn't anything to do with the team, how the team was going. That was just his prerogative. That was just the way he played IPL cricket, and he never went outside of his bubble. Last year he spoke about preparing for the World Test Championship and not wanting to change his game. This year, what we've seen is he's changed his game. That's why he's performing better.
Yeah, but Mitch, if you look at all the highest run getters in the IPL,
I'm not talking about run getters.
No. What
I'm talking about the impact he's had and
I understand
why it's changed.
I understand what you're trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, if all the highest run getters in the IPL, they're going to have similar strike rates. There's a reason why they're the highest run getters, and why they perform for their team day in, day out, is because they obviously play slightly lower risk cricket, but they deliver runs for their team.
How many times has the orange cap holder won the IPL?
I don't know. You tell me.
Do you know the answer? It's a
it
really
would be
cool
less,
line.
Yeah.
It would be less than...
I mean, if you know it, I would.
No, it would be very, very minimal. No, but what I'm saying is that it's a running joke. It was a running joke when I was
It's
at
the
MI.
opposite for the purple cap.
Yeah, it was a running joke that, like, if your team has the orange cap, you lose. You don't win the IPL.
So just to your point, my observation with regards to it is, if you're playing as an opening batter, worrying about what potentially is going to happen with some of your batters down the order, you're not concentrating on what you need to do to win the match for your team. So if you're playing in a conservative way because you're worried about how Patidar's form is, how Maxwell's form is, how Green's trying to find his way at number 5, well, you're starting the game in reverse. You know, it's not the way to start, and this is why their season has changed, is because they've changed their mindset to saying, let's forget about what the rest is doing, let's set the tone from the top and do what we know we can do. And I think, if anything, I think Virat Kohli has reached a ceiling that he probably felt that is higher than he ever thought he could reach. And the scary thing is, I think he can go higher.
So,
that's the scary thing,
Agreed.
is that he's reached a height that he would never have imagined. But I reckon he's got a couple more floors to go.
yeah, I reckon it's going to happen in the World Cup. I think he's going to go to the next
Oh, come on
level
now,
as
stop
well.
doing that to us. Give it some
Giving you hope.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. With all the focus on, of course, Trent Bolt, maybe the spinners, let's not forget good old Sandeep Sharma, who just continues doing what he does and has that record against Kohli in T20. 7 dismissals, 15 innings, average of 12, strike rate 129. I know you, of all people, are always pleased to see Sandeep's numbers because they never disappoint.
Oh, he's one of the IPL greats. It's simple as he is.
Yes.
His numbers, his overall economy, is below 8. And that's someone that bowls in the power play, someone that is also bowling at the death. You know, he's on par numbers-wise to Jasprit Bumrah. I'm not saying he's as good a bowler as Jasprit Bumrah, but in IPL cricket...
delivers the goods.
Wow. How could he be left on the shelf at auction?
Yeah.
He got left on the shelf at auction, and then he got...
never again.
He came into...
How do you feel about him? The only reason that he's probably not playing for India is his pace. How do you feel about that? Do you think that should come into consideration?
I think wickets in international cricket are different than what you see here in India. You've got to play, they're a lot more batter friendly, and it's a completely different game. But I'm not saying he can't perform. And there's one place he probably could perform is in the Caribbean, when they can be a bit slower and what have you. But he's a very crafty bowler, and that is a standout stat. 7 outs out of 15 innings, and you can just about put your last dollar on the fact that he is going to match up against Kohli tonight.
Yep, and he's still young. He only turned 31 last week. So he's got loads of time. All right, let's move on to Yuzvendra Chahal. He is going to the World Cup. And this is, again, a key matchup. How do we see it going? This is where I'd love the panel to actually try and envision how the game goes. We did that with Stark v Head yesterday, and it was terrific to watch. We got to witness it while we were still live. But Chahal against the Bengaluru batters. Maxwell, spoken about this before, average of 33, strike rate 177, 5 outs in 16 innings. And Faf, he enjoys a better record. DK for a little later in the game, but Chahal tends to bowl deep into the innings these days. And Maipal Lomror there as well. Keep an eye out on the left-hander and how he goes. How do we see Chahal going today? He's gone off the boil a little bit in the last few games, hasn't he?
I think his last two games have been really good. I see him playing a big role today. Also, he will want redemption from the last time they played the playoff versus RCB at the same ground. I think he went wicketless for 45 runs in that game. So knowing Chahal, he's quite a fighter and he would want to contribute today, especially over the last 4 games. They haven't won a game. He would want to be at the forefront of that resistance, especially in the middle. And knowing him, he would want to get Patidar out.
That's a matchup that he would love to have the better of. Anything that you've noticed on why Chahal's not been as effective?
I personally felt in the middle phase that he's pushed the ball through more and he hasn't looked to spin the ball as much as he normally does. I think his release has been more sort of out the front against really trying to rip the ball. And what quite often happens with spinners, not only wrist spinners but finger spinners, is that when they're under pressure, they bowl a bit quicker, but then once you bowl quicker, you can't get over the top of the ball, whether that's getting over the top of the ball like a leg spinner does, showing the back of their palm to the batter, or with a finger spinner getting over the top of it like that. So you get the revs on the ball so the ball dips. Something that Shane Warne, and I mentioned this to Mitch yesterday, something that Shane Warne said to me many years ago that's always stuck in my head. He said, it's not what happens to the ball when it hits the pitch, it's how the ball arrives. It makes a spin bowler. And how the ball arrives has got a lot to do with what revs you put on the ball, because then you get that dip, overspin on the ball, you get the ball dipping or you get the ball curving. You'd remember the great Shane Warne, that beautiful curve that he used to get into to right-handers. So for me, Chahal has just lacked a little bit of, a few revs on the ball, and that can be pressure. It may be a technical thing. I don't know who's the technical spin coach that he leans on, but, maybe there's something there.
All right, let's predict this. Chahal versus the matchups that we've seen. How do you see it going?
I think RCB's been dynamic in that middle phase. I don't see that changing.
Okay, so you see Patidar, RCB middle order taking down Chahal today. Any other matchup call, perhaps?
No, I think Chahal's going to have the last laugh today.
Yeah. I agree with Tom. I was just going to say
because it's bigger ground. Why? Bigger ground. The hesitation to take the boundaries on that hesitation may well just be the undoing. We saw it yesterday with Klaasen.
Yes.
Bigger ground. He didn't quite commit to that shot as much as we've seen him commit to those types of shots before. We saw it in the World Cup in Australia quite often when people were taking on the bigger boundaries, getting caught. There's a lot of catches caught on the boundary. And, catch on the boundary in Australia is you're 75 metres back. 75 metres back, 95% of the ground's here in India. You're 20 rows back into the stands.
So you're going for Chahal to actually get the better of the RCB batters today. You think the RCB batters
will
continue?
Yeah, I do. And I think because most of the RCB batters, when they hit against spin, they hit straight, as opposed to going across the line. They like to hit with the straighter bat. Even Virat Kohli's slog sweep is that straighter direction.
I'm going with Chahal today.
Okay, right. That's just something to keep an eye out for as the first innings develops and unfolds, because Stark versus Head got me very excited yesterday. That we may not get as lucky to watch a wicket in the first over. Who knows, maybe we will. It's time for the panel to make some outrageous picks. It's time for the Impact Zone. Varun is still holding on to top spot there. Mitch and Tom, it's getting closer though. Got handy with a nice outrageous pick coming through, but the panel can argue on whether that outrageous pick should have been accepted in the first place. Won't change the reality of the leaderboard. And on that note, Tom Moody remains third, so Tom Moody gets to go first again today.
You've surprised me. Okay, I will go with Virat Kohli. Go batter first tonight.
Kohli. Varun.
I'm going to go with Sanju Samson.
Samson. Mitch.
I will go with Patidar.
Rajat Patidar. Varun, your turn for bowlers, please.
I'm going to go with Yash Dayal.
Okay, Yash Dayal, the hero of the last game. Mitch.
I'm going to go with Trent Bolt.
Bolt for Mitch.
Bowler, I'll go with Lockie Ferguson.
Okay, Lockie Ferguson. And finally, wildcard time, Mitchell McClenaghan.
I'm going to go with Cam Green.
Cameron Green.
I knew Mitch was going to do that.
Tom.
Maxwell.
All right, and finally, Varun Aaron.
I'm going to go with... One sec, sorry. Riyan Parag.
Riyan Parag, in which case I'm quite pleased to take Sandeep Sharma if no one's taking him. Jaiswal, taken too many RR players. I'm backing RCB today. Well, let's put Faf du Plessis in there then, shall we? Might as well. Outrageous picks and predictions, please. Varun Aaron.
Chahal to get Patidar out.
Chahal to get Patidar. Would you like to give me a form of dismissal as well?
That's hard now. You're asking for me to be a soothsayer. And they're going to score... RCB are going to score 212.
2-1-2, big score. I was happy to take that given Patidar's very good record against spin this year. If you'd like to give me a specific matchup, I will accept it as well on outrageous picks. Mitch.
Say Sandeep Sharma will get Virat Kohli.
Okay. It's pattern today. Okay, Sandeep to get Kohli and?
They will get 194.
194.
I'm going to say Ferguson's going to get Sanju Samson, just to sort of follow the theme.
In the second innings.
Oh, okay, that's the second innings one, sorry. Yep.
He's helped you there.
Yeah, okay. I'll say that the man that's trying to face his first ball, Faf du Plessis, will be out before 12, facing 12 or less balls.
No.
That's actually... 12 balls is a bit much.
That's too far.
10 balls then.
Yeah, 10 is all right.
10 or less balls.
He's been batting well, Michelle. It's all right.
I was
We're
happy
going
to,
back to this.
I was happy to take 12.
10 is fine.
I'm
I don't
accepting
understand
12.
what's wrong with it.
Yeah, it's fine.
You're accepting 12?
I'm accepting 12.
That's all right.
All right. And your score, please.
That's outrageous.
Your score, please, Tom.
My score, Raunak, is 181.
181 it is then.
Yes.
Thank you very much to Tom Moody, Mitch McClenaghan, Varun Aaron. Wonderful conversation which will carry on at the end of the RCB innings. Let's see if the dream carries on for Faf du Plessis and co. Join us for analysis. Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN again for Timeout, powered by JBL. Download the mobile app, fastest scores and so much more as Trent Bolt has got things underway and is already troubling Faf du Plessis, who Tom Moody believes will not bat for another 10 balls. He's faced 2 so far. We will see you at the end of the RCB innings.
Introducing the epic new Swift. Time to go swifting.